Jimmy Pethokoukis. Jimmy P. joins us right now, columnist, blogger over at American Enterprise Institute, also a contributor at CNBC. I'm on the air with Jimmy P. Hey, Jim.
I'm sure it's very exciting for you, isn't it?
It is. Listen, but so much to talk to you about. I do want to get to Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina and how that, in your opinion, is going to change the face of the campaign here. But I gotta get your take. I love reading you, and you talk about the intersection of public policy and economics and politics and government. And boy, everyone seems to have an opinion about how to fix Baltimore and what caused the problem in Baltimore. I'd like to hear your opinion.
Listen, I am not a big believer in silver bullet explanations, silver bullet solutions. I think you do have to look at sort of, and since I write a lot about the economy, I think you do have to look at sort of also the sort of big macro factors where if you're a sort of lower skill person, maybe just a high school graduate, maybe didn't graduate high school, the economy today is very unforgiving of those kinds of education levels, and that's been the wages for those folks haven't gone up in a long time. The workforce participation of those folks hasn't gone up for a long time. So when you take work away from a community, very bad things happen, and it makes everything else far more difficult. I know conservatives have talked a lot about marriage rates and breakdown in the family, and I think there's certainly some cultural headwinds against that, but there's also been some really hard economic headwinds that affected not just Baltimore, but a lot of these are big cities.
Well, how do we connect that, Jim, to our messaging to reach out to people to say, hey, we want you to have a job. We actually have policies that would help create the situation that would create more jobs?
Well, listen, I think obviously there's a huge trust gap between people who live in cities, the inner city, and Republicans. So I would start by sort of doing two things. One, I would stop talking about getting rid of the minimum wage and then ending the conversation. Or if the additional thing you would say is, let's also get rid of the earned income tax credit. I think in this economy, you're going to have some sort of wage subsidy while you're also improving the schools, which is kind of a long-term thing. So I think sort of the economic message has to be, listen, we understand your situation, and here's the best way. We're going to expand something like the earned income tax credit or some other sort of wage subsidy program, and some Republicans are talking about that, but there's also been Republicans who have talked about not only getting rid of the minimum wage, but also getting rid of the earned income tax credit. The minimum wage is harmful for workers. The earned income tax credit is great for low-income workers.
There's more than just the message, though, Jim. It's also the messenger. And we've got Ben Carson, actually, who is a huge figure in the city of Baltimore and starting to become so nationwide. African-American doctor, accomplished pediatric neurosurgeon. He has now announced he's running for president. And just moments ago, Carly Fiorina, former CEO of HP, announced she's running for president. How do you think these two messengers are going to change the way politics and policy is discussed?
Now, remember, but we should say first that this is who gets to become president in the United States. You are the current vice president. You are a governor. You are a senator. You led a smashing victory of the Allies over the Germans. Those are the ways you become president in the United States. So, while these are
hold on. Abe Lincoln was a congressman for just one term.
Within the last 100.
Oh,
well, so you didn't say that.
Okay.
I know. I always have that caveat. That doesn't mean Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson can't make a valuable contribution. And again, just because of who they are, they may get people who haven't been looking at the Republican Party. It may give them a second look. So that's fine. That's like your initial entry ticket. Now people are giving you a second look. Are you going to say anything different than maybe what Republicans have been saying? Because I'm a big believer it's not just a messenger problem for Republicans; it's also been the substance of that message. And when voters go into the ballot box in 2016, if what they know most about Republicans is what they knew 4 years ago in 2012, which is they're for high-end tax cuts, and I guess they have an education plan, but I'm not really sure what it is. That's going to be a big loser.
Jim, what about this Sanders thing? So he announces he's a socialist. He's this is what I see in my mind. He's coming out. He's supposed to make Hillary look palatable, normal, actually good.
Moderate, yeah.
Yeah, he comes out and makes her look like she's not as scary as the rest of us actually know and believe she is. Am I right?
Remember, there's been a lot of talk about how the Republican Party's, kind of lurched, to the right, the Tea Party. Listen, the Democratic Party has lurched to the left. And Bernie Sanders sort of sits nicely where the modern Democratic Party is. I did a profile on Bernie Sanders right when he entered Congress. Kind of an unusual guy, not a snappy dresser, not a guy with a big entourage. But he is sort of where the Democratic Party is. And that is sort of where Hillary Clinton will indeed drift over. People are like, what's Hillary going to run on? She's going to run on sort of the natural extension of what we've seen with President Obama, which is going to be looking at, do Americans have problems? What are their problems? What is the government solution to that problem?
Yeah, it's not like Hillary's going to come out there and say, there's Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. They're crazy too far on the left.
Right.
I'm the moderate. No, she's going to say, I agree with them. I'm right there with them. I'm just, a more palatable, more experienced person. Jim Pethokoukis, you've got a very interesting article out talking about Generation Katniss. Generation K, of course, referring to Katniss, the lead character in the Hunger Games. What exactly is this generation, and should we be afraid of them?
Hide your bow and arrows.
Right.
No, listen, afraid of them. This isn't a generation that's afraid. They sort of idolize these, strong characters they'll see in the movies. But this is a very worried generation. Now, the Generation Katniss comes from a survey of girls and women between her teenagers to their early 20s, and while they idolize strong characters, they're worried about a lot of things. They're worried about terrorism. They're worried about the weak economy, which is all they've ever known. They're worried about climate change. They're worried. I mean, there's a long list of concerns. So they're worried about their security and their future. So I think listen, they're already worried. You don't have to scare these kids. What you need to say is, here is a positive, optimistic path forward that the future of America can be every bit as bright as the past. But we need to take action. They're willing to listen to politicians who offer that kind of message.
And actually, you point out in your article, Jim, that they actually fear, you mentioned global warming, they fear global warming as a threat to our nation more so than radical Islamic terrorism or terrorism in general.
Well, as anyone with kids in high school know, the issue of global warming and climate change sort of pervades the curriculum. So it's not surprising to me that they're indeed very worried about this issue. Indeed, you turn on Nickelodeon or Nick for Teens or any of these. It is a very common issue that, again, sort of pervades both their education and sort of the mass culture.
Man, Jim Pethokoukis, thanks for joining us as always. Jimmy P. in the house. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, gang.